Hi everyone, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Today I come at you again from this angle that I kind of have to, cock my hip to be able to be seen by the camera entirely. But again, my wall of questionable authors revealed behind me. Anyway, today I'm bringing to you all another recent reads video, which by now that's turning out into a lie because I read these books in January, but whatever. It's what I'm sticking with it. The first book I'm going to be talking about is Real Men Knit by Kwanna Jackson. In this book, we follow Jesse, who has recently lost his adoptive mother, and he is grieving this loss along with his adoptive brothers. And we also follow Carrie, who has been working at their mother's knitting shop for a long time. And so this is the romance that develops between Jesse and Carrie as they both try to keep this little small business alive. I rated this 2 stars. It was not a good time. It was the most boring romance I think I've ever read. Like, so boring. Like there's authors who can make the mundane interesting, can make the mundane engaging. This author's not one of them, unfortunately. I was so bored. I almost DNF'd this book. The only reason I didn't DNF it is because my friend bought it for me as a gift. And so I was like, I have to push through. I have to see if this becomes good. But it was just not. It was just so boring. Nothing exciting happened in it. They were literally just the most bland couple ever. It was like following a real life romance, which meant that it was quite boring. It's not even like an exciting romance. It's not even you have a friend who has this really great romance story of like in real life. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. It's like the 2 most average humans ever falling in love, and you kind of follow that averageness to the end. The other part that upset me about this is that not only was the romance boring, but then we didn't even have smut scenes. I'm like, you're gonna bore me to tears with these 2 boring ass people, and then you're not even gonna give me smut. Like, for real. Like, there was even build up to it. There was even build up to these 2 finally getting together and giving in and doing the deed. Was that shown to me? No. It was not. And I'm like, then what's the fucking point? Why did I read this? Why? What happened here that was any good? Nothing, honestly. One of the highlights of this book, which eventually got tiring, was actually the sibling dynamics. Jesse and his brothers were funny. I did enjoy their banter, their interactions. I liked that part of this book. I thought they were cute. So it was a nice time. It was cute. But one of the things that got on my nerves was that Jesse was the jealous type, the overprotective type. Like, a man looked at Carrie and he would go feral. And I'm like, sir, no. I'm like, that's not the type of romance we're reading here. I'm like, you're neither a vampire or werewolf or any other paranormal creature. Calm the fuck down, okay? Calm down, sir. You don't need to get so revved up. The part that made it even more annoying is that he behaved that way with his own brothers. I'm like, you think your brothers are gonna play you like that? Why? Why? No puedo. Es que no puedo. It was just ridiculous. Jesse needed a chill pill. It was getting on my nerves, being so jealous over anyone who looked at Carrie. I'm like, I'm so tired. The other thing is that Jesse had this angst because he was a playboy and Carrie deserved so much better. And Carrie wasn't even getting on his ass for being a playboy. And I'm like, no. No, the answer is just no. So I rated this 2 stars, would not recommend. Let me stop talking about it. The next book I'm going to be talking about is First and Then by Emma Mills. I'm gonna read the summary for this because I don't know how to summarize it. Devin Tennyson wouldn't change a thing. She's happy watching Friday night games from the Bleachers, silently crushing on best friend Kaz and blissfully ignoring the future after high school. But the universe has other plans. It delivers Devon's cousin, Foster, an unrepentant social outlier with a surprising talent for football, and the obnoxiously superior and maddeningly attractive star running back, Ezra, right where she doesn't want them. First into her PE class and then into every other aspect of her life. I rated this book 3.5 stars. Overall, I enjoyed it. It wasn't the most amazing read, but I'm pretty confident this is Emma Mill's debut. So I chalked up most of the issues I had with this to that and to when this book was released. So one of the issues I had with this is that our main character has a serious case of I'm not like other girls, and it kind of got on my nerves. She was always talking about other girls that in a way that I was just like, please stop. Just silence is better. Silence. But this was questioned somewhat throughout the book. It wasn't completely unchallenged, but it was challenged too lightly, and so I was kind of like, nah, that didn't cut it for me. And like one of the things that really got on my nerves was that she would call certain popular girls PT, which was like an abbreviation for some made-up word for prostitutes, and I was like, no. We don't do that here. We don't support that here. But the part that I did enjoy was her relationship with her cousin, because her cousin is now living with her. She at first is very abrasive with him. She doesn't really want to deal with him, and she thinks that he's too strange. He's not trying hard enough to fit in. So there's this tension between their relationship, but eventually you see them growing closer, caring about one another, having each other's back, and that was very, very sweet. And I also like the whole non-conventional thing of having this cousin move in, and eventually, I don't consider this spoilers, but if you don't want to know anything, then skip ahead. But eventually they decide to adopt him, and she very much sees him as a brother, and I thought that was very beautiful and very well done. So it's one of the primary reasons why this got a 3.5 star. The other thing I liked about this book was the romance. Dev and Ezra were very, very cute together. They were definitely the kind of characters that struggled to open up to one another. So there was a lot of tension and a lot of conflict in their relationship because they found it so hard to communicate. But I didn't mind that. Again, I'm not the type that dislikes miscommunication as a trope. And I thought it was used in a way in this book that felt very realistic. So that's why I enjoyed it. And then Ezra was like the strong and silent type, which was fun. I haven't read one of those in a while. So I had a good time just with his character trope. That was really nice. So I enjoyed that. Finally, I just enjoyed the humor in this book. I really like Emma Mill's humor. So that was a fun addition to this book. I definitely see her brand of humor in here, and so that made this an enjoyable read. It's not like laugh out loud humor, it's not like that intense, but it is amusing, and so I enjoyed that. And overall, this was a good time. Even though I had my issues with it, I felt like it could have used a bit more time to resolve certain issues. I definitely didn't like how one of the characters of color was portrayed here. It was kind of bizarre. But overall, I enjoyed this, and I see it as a debut, so it has its flaws. It's an older book, so I forgive it for being less than stellar. The next book I'm going to be talking about is The Killing Moon by N.K. Jemisin. I'm going to be reading the summary of this because I cannot summarize fantasy to you. I can barely summarize contemporary novels to you. So let me just read that. In the ancient city-state of Gujare, peace is the only law. Upon its rooftops and among the shadows of its cobbled streets wait the gatherers, the keepers of this peace. Priests of the dream goddess, their duty is to harvest the magic of the sleeping mind and use it to heal, soothe, and kill those judged corrupt. But when a conspiracy blooms within Gujare's great temple, the gatherer Ehiru must question everything he knows. Someone or something is murdering innocent dreamers in the goddess's name, and Ehiru must now protect the woman he was sent to kill, or watch the city be devoured by war and forbidden magic. I rated this book 4 stars, and I'm prefacing this review by saying I'm illiterate. I say that I'm illiterate because this is definitely the type of book that you can get so much out of it, and I did not read it with that lens on. I just read this as a fantasy book to enjoy for the time, and so there's so much that could be said about this book, very rigorously, very detailed, and I'm mostly not going to talk about any of that because I had my stupid glasses on, and so I cannot tell you too much about it. I know that for sure one of the themes and topics that this is tackling is euthanasia, because it's this world where essentially, well, it's in this particular city-state, euthanasia is essentially legal. If you want to die, if you want to have a peaceful death, that is offered to you, that is something you can have, and that will be granted to you. But that is not the case all throughout this land. And so definitely that's one of the things being talked about here. This was very, very good. One of the things that was really well done was the world building. I'm not much of a world building reader. That's not really my jam. It's not really what I pick up books for, but I can recognize when it's done very, very well. And I think N.K. Jemisin did a superb job. I'm losing my voice. Anyway, I think N.K. Jemisin did an incredible job building this world and making you feel like it was lived in, like you could see it, you could understand it. Fantastic. Honestly, for that alone, this is worth reading. As you all know, if you've been here for a while, you know that I read books for characters. Here, I definitely also felt like the character work was very strong. Nijiri, Ehiru, and Tsunade were very well developed, very distinct. It was impossible to confuse them for one another because they all had their own goals, their own ways of thinking, their own motivations, and so that made them very clear-cut to know who was who wanted what, and why. So yeah, I really loved the 3 of them. I thought they were great leads in this book. They were all equally strong protagonists in this. I especially liked Ehiru and Nijiri because the 2 of them are very devout to their faith, and since I could understand where they were coming from, I could understand their faith, why they did the things they did, I just find those characters very, very interesting, despite the fact that I'm a non-believer myself. So I just find them intriguing, find them interesting, and so that made them compelling. But at the same time, Ehiru and Nijiri were the reason why this got 4 stars instead of 5 stars. And that is because Nijiri has like this idol crush on Ehiru, and everyone kind of acknowledged it and accepted it like it was okay. And it was weird because Nijiri is like 15, 16, one of those 2. I don't think he was older than 16. And Ehiru is like 30 or 40 years old, something like that. Double his age, okay? Whatever number, he's double Nijiri's age. And everyone kind of acknowledged that Nijiri was like in love with Ehiru. Even Ehiru acknowledged that Nijiri was kind of in love with him, and I was kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? What the fuck is that? I don't vibe with it at all. No. Like I felt like the author was doing this very purposefully. I felt like it was done very much on purpose, but I do not appreciate it or enjoy it. So I literally had to take a star for it because I was just like so uncomfortable while reading the moments where Nijiri is like thinking things and the people around him are saying things that I'm like, no, just no. The other reason why this got 4 stars is because the antagonist was kind of meh. He wasn't the best antagonist. He was a bit boring, if I'm being honest. And so between Ehiru and Nijiri, like, okay, let me clarify. Ehiru and Nijiri never do anything romantic or sexual. That's not what's happening here. Ehiru never leads him on, never does anything like that. It's just the way that people talk about it that made me uncomfortable. Anyway, the antagonist was bland, uninteresting, expected, and so that's kind of another reason why I was like, well, yeah, this is not a 5-star book, but it's definitely still a very strong, solid 4 stars. I would still highly recommend it, again, because N.K. Jemisin is brilliant. Like, I read this book and I could see the brilliance. I could see it. So honestly, if the Ehiro and Nejiri thing hadn't happened, this probably would have gotten 4.5 or 5 stars, because that was mainly the thing that made me super uncomfy. I can live with a bland antagonist. It doesn't bother me that much, but the Ehiro and Nejiri shit, yeah, no, that I don't fuck with that at all. The last book I'm going to be talking about in this video is The Tea Dragon Festival by Katie O'Neill. This is a middle grade graphic novel. It is the sequel of The Tea Dragon Society, and it is just the most precious, cutest shit you will ever read in your life, honestly. In the first volume, we follow a different set of characters. The series is more like a series of companion novels, well, graphic novels. And in the first one, we follow this little girl learning about tea dragons, who are very small dragons who grow leaves and flowers from their bodies, and these can get turned into tea and they have magical abilities. In this one in particular, we follow this girl who finds this dragon while he is sleeping, and it's about the friendship and the love that develops between the two of them. ¿Qué yo iba a decir sobre esto? First of all, let's just talk about the art. Let me look for a good page, and I can't see at all when I'm doing this, so hopefully you see something. I love Katie O'Neill's artwork. It's just stunning. It's just so beautiful. It's precious. The coloring is wonderful. Honestly, just looking through this is a delight. Like, forget the story. Just looking through it is its own amazing experience. But then the story is also wonderful. I gave this 4.5 stars. I don't think I said that I gave this 4.5 stars, but I did. This doesn't have like the most complex characters, but it has characters that you very easily want to root for, characters that you want to see succeed. And so our two protagonists were just lovely. Our dragon was a little bit conceited, a little bit proud, but that added to his charm, and I found him just the cutest thing ever. And then we also see some of the side characters of the first volume, which is always something that I'm trash for. I love seeing little cameos, and so the two of them were a very nice and pleasant surprise in here. And finally, I have to add that we have characters who use sign language here. There was a child who was born deaf, I believe, in the town, and so the little town they live in, they all learned sign language so that they could talk with the little girl. I think it was a little girl. So they could talk to this character. And they all learn sign language, and so we see the characters signing a couple of times in this graphic novel. So I really love the inclusion of that in here. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on any of my social media, I will have the links to that down below in the description. But for now, see you next time.